Welcome to the NeuroHeir Podcast, the show for cycle breakers, parents, young adults, and helping professionals ready to understand their nervous system through a generational lens, heal what isn't theirs to carry, and consciously choose what comes next. Hi, I'm your host, Leanna Hunt, an associate clinical mental health counselor and certified performance coach. Each week, you'll get stories, science, and somatic practices, plus my signature 4N framework: notice, name, nurture, and navigate, to help you honor resilience, break silence, and build deeper connection with yourself and those you love, all while shaping a legacy of safety, freedom, and possibility. Welcome back to the NeuroHeir Podcast. I'm your host, Leanna Hunt. If you listened to last week's conversation with Dr. Parker, you might still be sitting with a question. What if I'm not meant to do this the way that everybody else does? Today's episode is for that question, because after talking about willpower, motivation, and nervous system safety in episode 3, and after last week's conversation about honoring your unique energy, I want to go deeper into something that sits right at the intersection of both. Why sustainable change has very little to do with willpower and almost everything to do with capacity, frequency, and safety. And I want to walk you through this the same way I do with my clients, just like a conversation. And I'm getting over a really bad cold, so thanks you guys for your patience. If you're wondering why my voice sounds like the way it does, that's why. Okay, so one of the first things I look at when someone comes into my office as we discuss their goals and what they want to change is what I call baseline energy. Because here's something most of us were never taught. Your nervous system actually has its own set point, a very familiar place it returns to over and over again. A baseline frequency it recognizes as your normal. And that baseline often didn't start with you. That baseline has been shaped by your childhood, your family system, the pace, the stress, all the expectations around you, what was rewarded for you, what was required, and what was safe. And then when we try to change that without accounting for that baseline, willpower can end up carrying the weight of it, and it was never designed to hold it like that. I want to explain this the way I often do in a session. And if you're younger, this might shock you, but before podcasts, Spotify or Bluetooth, the radio was all we had in the car. You'd turn the dial manually on the radio. Sometimes you would have to tune it really slowly and really carefully. You'd move from station to station, listening for what came in clearly, what was fuzzy, what was just static, and you couldn't ever force a station to come in. You tuned until your receiver matched the frequency being broadcast. Sometimes, yes, you might drive your car somewhere else to get a better signal, but you couldn't make a station come in more clearly, if that makes sense, based on the frequency that it was coming in at. Our nervous systems work the same way. Let's say your baseline nervous system frequency is like the radio station 96.5. This was the easy listening station where I grew up in San Diego. Maybe it's still that. Anyways, this baseline frequency of your nervous system is where your body naturally tunes in. It's really familiar. It's predictable. And it's what you know and what feels safe for your nervous system. It's how you've shown up for years. It's also how others know you, including your family. It's how your relationships learn to orient around you. The frequency of 96.5 for you today might look like overfunctioning, or being known as the reliable one, or pushing through, or staying extra busy, or being emotionally available to everyone else. Maybe it's minimizing your own needs. And maybe 96.5 has been the dominant frequency in your family system for generations. Not because it's the best station or it's because what everybody wanted, but it is because it is what was safe. Remember that just because something feels safe, it doesn't mean it is what you want anymore. Even though it's been 96.5 for as long as you can remember, you start to see that there are more stations outside of 96.5. When my clients describe this actually happening in their own lives, it's really the process of noticing, the first N, that their own inner work is shifting something or multiple things within them. Maybe you're noticing this because of therapy. Maybe it's from coaching. Maybe it's living now on the other side of burnout for the first time in your entire life. Maybe it's been that deeper trauma work. Maybe it's been actually starting to embrace your presence in motherhood. Maybe it's healing through grief. Or maybe it's newfound wisdom in yourself and the world bigger than you. But you start to realize that there is more outside of 96.5. Like my clients, you can start to turn and tune the dial through your work and your experiences. And suddenly you feel like you aren't at 96.5 anymore. And maybe you feel like you're at 99.1. And there are new songs there. There are new ways of being. Maybe there's more rest there and more honesty. Maybe there's more space, more regulation, more alignment, and maybe, just maybe, there are more opportunities there. There is expansion there that you didn't even know was possible. And at first, you don't live there, you just visit the station. And this is where I want to pause and normalize something. Visiting a new frequency does not mean your nervous system knows how to live there yet. So you explore, then you come back to the familiar, and then you explore again. And that back and forth at the beginning, that is not failure. This is what I call acclimation. And here's where willpower gets misunderstood. Willpower can help you visit a new frequency. It can't help you stay. Because again, everything comes down to safety. And staying at a new frequency for longer periods of time, for long term, that does require safety. That safety that is felt in your body. Your nervous system has to learn this new place is okay. This is allowed. Being here won't ultimately cost me connection. This place, this frequency, this energy, this won't threaten my belonging, and this won't overwhelm my system. And that learning doesn't happen through force. It happens through repetition. It happens through regulation and with so much gentleness. When we try to jump from this metaphorical 96.5 straight to 99.1 overnight with big goals, big declarations, and trying to make these big identity shifts with these absolutes, the system often panics. And not because 99.1 is bad, but because it's unfamiliar. And usually it feels unfamiliar for not just you, but it can feel unfamiliar for your entire relational system. And unfamiliar can feel safe, often before it feels expansive. Let me say that one more time. Unfamiliar can feel safe before it feels expansive. And in all my work and with my clients, this is the really real part of this. The people around you, the ones who learned how to be with you at 96.5, don't always know what to do with you at 99.1 because this new frequency, maybe your availability changes. Maybe your boundaries change. Your energy is starting to shift. Maybe your tolerance for old patterns decreases. And often that can feel destabilizing for them and for you. This is often where guilt shows up. Maybe some loneliness, maybe some feelings of self-doubt or some inadequacy, that quiet pull to go back to what's known and what's familiar. And this is not because you want to go backward, but because your nervous system is wired for connection. We are all wired for connection. If we didn't want to try to connect, it would threaten the entire system of the world. We have needed connection throughout time to keep the population going, right? And if connection feels threatened, the system will often choose familiarity over expansion and growth. This is where the conversation about willpower can finally click into place. Small actions aren't about lowering the bar. It's not about saying, I don't want to be at that place anymore. I don't like that place anymore. Small actions are actually about stabilizing a new frequency. Think of them like micro adjustments to the dial, not taking dramatic leaps, just enough tuning so the signal comes in a little clearer each time. If you tune the dial on your radio too fast, you might actually miss the stations that are clear altogether. And a lot of you that have cars and older cars, I want you to try this out. Like, just sit for a minute and experience tuning the dial on, it's tuning and turning, right? So when I say turning, because most cars actually have a dial, maybe your car has a button, but we're turning the dial and tuning into the station. Just experiment with it and experience the different stations. Notice where they're static, just because it might help make this all make more sense. So if you tune too fast, again, you might miss the stations that are clear altogether. This is why big sweeping changes often can collapse the system. And we started talking about this a few weeks ago. They can skip too many stations at once. And when the static gets loud, the nervous system is like, shut it all down. Forget this. We're not going to change. We can't do this. We're going to go back to what we know, which again is that metaphorical 96.5. But when you can move slowly, when you give your system time to learn, new stations, higher frequencies like 99.1 can actually start to feel less threatening and maybe feel more like home. This is where NeuroHeir comes in. When you choose to live at a higher frequency, remember, not out of pressure, not to prove anything, and certainly not to try to force anyone else to change. When you choose to live at this higher frequency, you are doing something powerful because you are repairing a lineage pattern. You are teaching your nervous system, and by extension, those around you, that safety and expansion can coexist. And here's something I have seen again and again. I've seen this in my own marriage and other relationships and in my clients' lives. When one person regulates at a new level, they don't drag others with them. They simply can't. That's not our job, and that's not what happens. I tell my clients that their personal work is like sending an energetic invitation in the mail to their circle of people. It's like broadcasting to everyone within your system in this invitation, hey, I want you to know that I am expanding, I am growing, I am healing. And because I care about you so much, I want you to know that this work is possible for you too. Changing the dial on your life is possible when you are ready to do your own work. And here's the thing about invitations. Some people are totally going to accept it. Some invitations are going to get lost in the mail. Some will be received, but you're just going to sit on the counter. And some might be received and they just toss it in the trash. And just remember that this is all okay. The work that you are choosing to do is for your growth and your healing, not so everyone else will do their work. This is really, really important to remember. I see this in clients of all ages, and especially for those older clients that want so badly for their adult children to see the work they are doing and to just come running back to heal the relationship with them. But remember, your system and your people are still used to you being at something like 96.5. And for a while, they might not know how to receive you at 99.1. You're healing and growing and expanding. All of that might not feel safe for their systems yet. It's also important to share that sometimes these new frequencies can feel lonely because everything you knew lived at that frequency of 96.5. And you can't unhear the music once you've heard it at 99.1. And this is where compassion matters so much for yourself, for your family, and most importantly, for the timing of other people's healing. You don't do your own work to leave people behind. You do it because your nervous system is ready for more. And hopefully, and my prayer all the time is that over time, that readiness creates more room for authentic connection and not less. There's research that helps explain why this happens. Our nervous systems are designed to seek stability. In family systems theory, this is called homeostasis. Systems naturally resist change, even positive change. And in neuroscience, we talk about set points and the allostatic load, the way the body adapts to stress and returns to what it knows. What this means in real life is simple. Change that moves faster than safety gets rejected, and change that moves with safety can become integrated. So, if you've been on this healing journey for a while and you felt discouraged, feeling like no one's joining me, nobody gets it, nobody understands, if you're feeling discouraged and if you're noticing yourself snapping back to old patterns, if you're wondering why willpower still isn't working, I want you to ask a different question. Instead of not what is wrong with me, but what frequency is my nervous system actually ready to live in right now? And what is one small action that helps me stay there just a little bit longer? Remember, there's no forcing the dial. You don't need to justify your growth, and you certainly don't need to rush the process. And you guys, there are so many more frequencies ahead. After 99.1, there are countless others. This process, this healing journey, this nervous system work is all about having a relationship with your body, your unique energy, and your lineage. Before we close, I want to offer just a simple short practice to help your nervous system feel like what it's like to stabilize at a frequency that's a little more supportive than where you've been living. So if it feels okay, just let your body settle a bit. You don't need to change anything. You don't need to close your eyes unless you want to. Just notice, where does your body feel like it's tuned in right now? Are you feeling closer to the familiar energy? Or maybe you're hovering somewhere in between? Or maybe you've been touching out at a higher frequency lately. We're not evaluating here, we're just noticing. And notice as I talk and you connect to yourself, if there's any places of tension, any places of holding, or any areas that feel heavy or tired. And also notice, if you can, any part of your body that feels even just a little bit okay right now. Maybe there's that place too. Second, name. Now gently just name what you're noticing with honesty. You might say to yourself, I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed right now. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe it's I'm feeling hopeful but cautious. Maybe it's like, I'm excited. I'm excited for growth. Maybe it's I'm nervous, or maybe it's I'm somewhere in between. Just let the naming be simple. Remember, the nervous system responds to clarity. Now we move into nurture. This is where we tell the nervous system that, hey, you're not alone. Just place one hand on your chest, if that feels good to you, and one hand on your lower abdomen. Let your shoulders just settle lower than where they are. Take a slow breath in through your nose and an even slower breath out through your mouth. And just pause here for a moment. As you breathe, imagine you're gently tuning a dial. I'm not forcing it, just adjusting until the signal gets a little clearer. You're just stabilizing where you are. And if it feels supportive, silently say to yourself or out loud, my body is learning. I am allowed to grow at a pace that feels safe. And lastly, navigate. From this softer place, I want to invite you to consider one question, not for the entire year of 2026, not for your future self, just for this next little while. What is one small action that helps me stay at a supportive frequency without having to force anything, prove anything, or abandon myself? And this can be really simple. Maybe it's just stepping outside for 5 minutes to breathe. Maybe it's going to drink a cool glass of water. Maybe it's saying no to one thing this week. Maybe it's going to bed 10 minutes earlier. Or maybe it's placing a boundary where you usually override yourself. Or maybe it's choosing to rest without having to explain it. Let that action or actions just be an invitation. Notice how your body responds when you imagine doing that one thing. If your system gets all tight and tense, maybe that step's too big for now. And if your system softens even just a little bit, could that be enough? Remember, this is how sustainable change happens. Through listening, through responding and repeating what feels safe enough to hold. Remember, you don't have to live at any new frequency all the time. You're allowed to visit. You're allowed to come back. You're allowed to learn. Each time you choose regulation over force, you're not just helping yourself. Remember that you are repairing a pattern. You're helping teach your nervous system and the systems around you that growth doesn't have to cost connection. And every time you choose to listen to your body instead of override it, you are becoming a NeuroHeir, someone who is choosing to consciously heal forward. And when you let safety lead, willpower can finally rest. So cool. Next week, we'll talk about what it looks like to raise your frequency without burning bridges, how to stay regulated in those relationships as you grow. Until then, be gentle with your system. Remember, it might be learning a new song. Until next time, bye guys. Thanks for joining me on the NeuroHeir Podcast. This work is about honoring resilience in yourself and also those who came before you, all while finding freedom from what was never yours to carry. With the help of stories, science, somatic tools, and the 4 N's, notice, name, nurture, and navigate, you have a path toward deeper connection with yourself, your loved ones, and the legacy you want to pass on. If today's episode spoke to you, share it with someone who's ready to step into this work too, and follow the show so you never miss an episode. Remember, you may not have chosen what you inherited, but you can choose what comes next.